So hey everybody, welcome to Biff's YouTube channel. I have been on a little bit of a hiatus. Obviously, a lot of people have seen that we've been doing some relief effort for Hurricane Helene in the western North Carolina mountains. But I wanted to give a recap video. Lots of people are asking me questions about all kinds of things, and I get it. I would want to know the same. So how did this start? What happened? What triggered it? So I was probably like everybody else. Saturday morning, I'm up here at my shop. I knew some people without power. I knew there was, my mountain property in Morganton or Rutherfordton didn't have power. But I had no idea at that point in time how devastating this storm was. And I don't think anyone did, because I hadn't heard about it on the news, really, And so I get a text from Stephanie from Victory Air that said, hey, do you want to go flying today? And a link to the Facebook post of a family that was stuck up in Banner Elk at an Airbnb. They were running out of water, formula, diapers, things, basic needs, because they didn't plan on being there but a short time in this Airbnb, so they didn't have extra supplies, whatnot, which most folks would in their pantry or however. So what started out to be rescuing one family that was stuck up there due to downed trees or whatever it might have been, turned into 4,000 messages of my family members. I haven't heard from them, my brother, my sister, my neighbors, and my grandparents. It just went viral. The video I posted, I couldn't get there. So went on a rescue mission today. Unfortunately, I'm very disappointed. We were not able to get up into the mountains where they were. We got within 9 miles of them. I'll post some pictures, video, but the clouds came down on top of the mountains. We tried several ways in. We just could not get in there. The weather's coming in. I picked up a safety pilot, Jeremy, over at Lincolnton. I appreciate you helping me. So I got within about 9 miles of them, and the clouds came down on the mountains. And I was sneaking in and around, flying in these mountains in the clouds. And I could not I needed about another 1,100 foot elevation to reach them. So I had to turn back. In that day and time, I had no idea what was going to come after that. But I was so disappointed that I had to turn around and come back empty-handed. But I made a commitment, I'm going again in the morning. But when I got back and landed, the viral video or the social media post exploded all across everywhere. So my friend Garrett came up from Florida. Some of you may know him as Cletus McFarland. And all these other people started, hey, do you need help? Do you need more helicopters? So it started out as 2, ended up the next morning at 8. And by the end of that day was more like 20. Just from word of mouth, just from social media, this operation, just civilians, came out of the ground in about 20 hours with 30 volunteers at the Statesville Airport, a line of cars all the way down the road dropping off supplies, helicopters showing up from everywhere flying missions. Then it went from the Statesville Airport to the Hickory Airport to Foothills Airport to Rutherfordton, to however many others there were, airports. I don't want to leave anyone. Lincolnton had a big operation going on. So now everybody's joining the mission in rapid response. And it was so neat to see. Now, we know that communication was the biggest problem. And I think that's part of the reason why this was so underreported. One, when do we have a hurricane in the mountains? Not very often. 2, nobody expected it. Nobody expected for what to happen. So they didn't have Jim Cantori and all these other weather people ready for this giant hurricane to come through the North Carolina mountains. So people are cut off, no communication. We can't get, confirmation whether people are alive, loved ones, where they're at, are they safe? So when we would land, we would set up our Starlink, and everybody would call their friends and family. And then we're like, guys, look, we have to go. We've got more missions to fly. So we reached out to a friend of ours, Bob Mack, that's on the board of Polaris, has a friend on the board of SpaceX. They facilitated 300 Starlink units. I think the call went in about 3:30 in the afternoon. By 5 o'clock, we got confirmation we were going to get the units delivered by truck to my shop the next morning. So at 6:45 a.m. in the dark, a truck pulls in with 300 Starlink units. We unload them, load them on my truck, straight to the airport, and in the air on the civilian helicopters to search and rescue, first responders, community centers, larger communities that were isolated. And I can't thank SpaceX and Starlink enough for that. I will clear up some rumors that, unfortunately, social media is really great at getting the word out. And Husqvarna reached out to us, got us tractor trailer loads of chainsaws, got them to the people that needed them right away. VP sent us trailer load of fuel cans. Husqvarna sent us clothes, jackets, chains, oil, other companies. It was amazing. But let me clear up one thing about Starlink. The units were free. Nobody paid for them. And they have 90 days, 3 months free. So after that, the Starlink shuts off and you owe nothing. You can do with what you will. Now, we hope that people would subscribe to it and use the Starlink for the future. But if it's not needed, there's no cost. No one paid for these. No one had upfront payments. All that was BS. And it's frustrating that you have the folks in the background making chatter about this. There was also a lot of chatter about FEMA. Now, I will tell you from my experience, FEMA didn't take any of our supplies. Although I never engaged with any FEMA people, I never saw any FEMA people. We flew all these missions and we've been on the ground up there. And I've not encountered any FEMA people, but from the air, I believe I've seen a few FEMA things set up. However, the first 4 days, they were not there. And they came in, I think, after the word got out, after they realized. There may have been some initial people there, assessing damage or whatever, but they certainly weren't there delivering water and food and medicine to people, flying in insulin in the helicopters, doing the things that we were doing. But I think everybody was unprepared for this scale of this event. But we need help from everyone. We need help from FEMA. We need help from the private citizens and the private aviation community and everybody that reached out. So I'm unclear on all that. I did see the Guard come in on day 3, set up fuel trucks. Day 4, they had one Black Hawk on the ground. And it looked like then day 5 and on, they started flying some missions, as we're flying about 150 missions per day of civilian helicopters and fixed wing aircraft. I think the one day it was 165 missions, around to 200 per airport. I don't want to take credit for this whole thing. Certainly I'm getting a lot of credit. There are so many people that have stories just like mine. Buddy of mine, Johnny Angel, calls me in Arizona. Hey, a friend of mine that I raced with off-road has a 407, said you need help, call him. I call him up, and within hours, he deploys his 407 out of Pennsylvania with his pilot down to help fly supplies. And I've got calls from people, I have no idea who they are, where my number got out, but I got a Swarovski S76. I've got EC120. I've got a Robinson R44. It just blew up. And all these guys came in. Andy Petrie, let me tell you a story. Andy Petrie is in Daytona Beach getting ready to go on a cruise. He sees the post. He sees all this stuff. He calls me on the phone and said, I'm coming to help. I don't know what his wife thought about that, but they rented a car and drove home, stopped at Buc-ee's, and bought every fuel can they had. As I told him, people need fuel for their generators. And drove home, got in his helicopter, and started flying missions. Because he's from the mountains. He grew up in that area, and he has, you know, a shop in that area, machines and friends, and that's not the reason why. The reason why is he wanted to help. And so I'm not the only one that dropped everything for 2 weeks. We are now 2 weeks and a day from when I drove to the Statesville airport, no power. They opened the hangar with the tug so I could get my helicopter out. My car sat at the airport for 2 weeks, and I just landed at my house at night and left as soon as the fog or the weather would lift in the morning. And I want to say probably one of the most cherished things, and you feel anxieties in the morning when I'm sitting there drinking a cup of coffee and waiting for the fog to lift or the weather to get good enough I can get out and get up there. I'm thinking about all those people that slept. Where did they sleep last night? They're not drinking a cup of coffee. They're suffering, and I'm sitting here waiting to go, and that weighs on you. But I'm so glad that I was able to help so many people and bring awareness to this devastating event. And people keep asking, what can we do? What can we do? How do we help? I know that for right now, I'm not saying that's going to change in a week or two, but for right now, they have enough food and water and baby formula and diapers. For the most part, in all these community centers, now there may be some isolated areas that still need some of those supplies, but I do know a lot of these centers are overflowing with supplies of that nature. I do know that they need heaters, propane tanks, generators, and some warm clothing, I think, is still in need. Although these big companies have been coming in and teams and everybody's really doing a great job. But I do know the next thing that's on our agenda to help these people with is where are they going to live and where are they going to work? And a lot of them lost their vehicles for transportation. They don't have enough money in the bank to go buy a new vehicle handout. And quite frankly, who knows if they had insurance or not. If they owned that vehicle they had, they may or may not had full coverage insurance on it. So I think transportation is going to be a major issue for these people. The other thing I started thinking about is what are they going to do for their jobs? A lot of their jobs are gone. Even though they're able-bodied men and women ready to work or willing to work, and they got a one-lane gravel road so they can get in and out, the place they worked may not be there anymore or may not be functioning at full capacity, whatever the case is. Lastly, I was at, we see new places every time I go. Every time I go, I'm like, I can't believe what I'm seeing. But the place we went, they told them it's going to be 3 to 5 months before power will be back on. This is the middle of October. This is the mountains. It's going to be below freezing up there right now at night. So they're going to have snow in probably 5 or 6 weeks, I would imagine. So not having power and being in those conditions, not having the substation and the railroads washed out, and just all of these things, it's a pretty devastating event. I don't want to make any comparisons and take away from catastrophic events, but I feel like this is as big as Hurricane Katrina, and it's so widespread, but it's just so hard to see because it's from South Carolina all the way to Virginia. And the reason I know that is I have a small river rock mine. For those of you that don't know, I have a small mining company in Wytheville, outside of Wytheville, Virginia, and Speedwell, Virginia. And my small quarry washed our bridge out, washed all of our stuff down. What used to be where the bridge is, 50 feet wide, is 100 feet wide now. And we used to run 300,000-pound trucks across this bridge. We're completely cut off. Today, still shut down. My D9, Caterpillar D9 machine, underwater. My screen plant, underwater. I've got hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of damage, but no lives lost. That's simply things that can be fixed and things that can be replaced. So it's not someone's home. Yeah, there's a devastating event, but the moral of the story is That's all the way in Wytheville, Virginia. So we know the damage is from Chimney Rock or wherever it started all the way to there. So I'm trying to point out the scale of this and how many roads and bridges and driveways and sheds and things are damaged with trees, roads washed out, all of that. So just wanted to give everybody an update, and hopefully we could all find a way to help these folks. We see the folks in Florida that need help. They've had 2 hurricanes back to back. And if you can help a neighbor or a friend, the other thing I'll say last is the camaraderie between the American people to help one another and expect nothing in return. Just simply send their helicopter, send their stuff out to help a fellow American or help a fellow comrade that needs help. It gives me hope to see that so many people are willing to just help one another. It's a great feeling, and I'm so happy I was able to help. And that's my thought is if I don't do it, who else is? Who's going to help these people? And I have the means, and I had the resources, I had the helicopter, and I said, I'm going to go help. I'm going to do what I can do. And that's how it started, and it just snowballed from there, and I'm so glad. And on the topic of all the people that have joined this effort, I can't tell you how many, every one of my old race team guys have reached out. They're still in the industry working for all these teams. Brian Dextre, I mean, the list is so long, I can't even begin. But guys taking their days off. They're coming home from the racetrack, they got Monday off. Monday's their day off. Or they're not road guys, they have Saturday and Sunday off. Loading their trucks, helping people. Everybody knows somebody that lives up there or has a friend that lives there. And they're still doing search and rescue. They're still cutting in roads. I just can't be proud enough of the NASCAR community, what they've done. Honored me this last weekend, let me throw the green flag for the Bank of America Roval race. It's just truly amazing to see everybody come together and do help where they can. Not everybody has extra things or resources, but think about the pilots, which we're going to do a big event for all the pilots that flew missions during this time. And there were helicopter and fixed wing. They were both very crucial in the supply chain. As we expanded our operation, fixed wing airplanes started bringing the supplies from Statesville over to Hickory and into Foothills to keep the helicopters running. And then they started finding small airports in the mountains that they could get into that weren't washed away. So fixed wing aircraft, small fixed wing aircraft, played a very large role in this, as well as all the helicopters. So we are going to have 2 events to thank those folks. And if you know personally, please, any of the helicopter pilots or the owners of the machines, if they are different than the pilots, please thank them. Along with all of our other partners, there's been just tons of people that have reached out to us, and they continue. And we'll keep you posted. Maybe we'll post a list of people and companies that have helped us get aid to these people. And let's pray that during this search and rescue effort that they continue to find people that just got to higher ground and are staying somewhere else, and they can get back to their loved ones. I'm not going to quit. I'm not going to give up. I'm going to get on the ground. I've got some equipment. I'm reaching out to companies to try and get some more equipment. We're going to do potentially a GoFundMe to help buy gravel, culvert pipes, all these things, supplies for these folks up there, and help them get their lives back to normal. But I appreciate it. We're going to post lots of video. For those of you that just looking for something to do or some time to kill, I rolled video on my phone that was on a suction cup on the side of the helicopter, so some of it may be boring to watch. Some of it, down the rivers, through the mountains. For those of you that are not familiar with Western North Carolina, may want to watch those videos, but we'll post those long videos and you can watch however much you want, but it's just so people could see it. Not really, some of it there's material, some there isn't, but anyway, I hope you enjoy it.